So yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Dominik Picheta, and I am a Queen's University student in my final year of computer science. I am one of the core developers of NIM as well, and that's what I'll be talking about. A little caveat maybe about lack of time. I know that I only have 20 minutes, and so I'll only be able to scratch the surface really of what NIM is. But I will try to paint a picture of NIM for you and just ask you to maybe take a look at it yourself afterwards, a bit of a closer look. So before I start, can I just ask all of you to put up your hand if you've heard of NIM before this conference? Okay, nice. And how many of you have actually used NIM? So that means like compiling some code using NIM. Oh, nice. So 1, 2 people. Awesome. So I'm in the right place. Okay. So let's get started. So first of all, what is NIM? NIM is a programming language, and it's quite difficult to describe a programming language in a single sentence, but that's my attempt. So NIM is a new, fast systems programming language that is expressive, extensible, and easy to learn. So what is systems programming? Systems programming is essentially where a language has a focus on performance-constrained software, such as AAA video games or operating systems or drivers. And this also makes NIM incredibly versatile, allowing you to write anything from desktop applications to also web applications, as you will see soon. So here's a Hello World example, the classic example given for all languages. It's a single function call, so it's a little bit boring. But one thing to notice is that there's no main function, unlike in C and Java and most other programming languages. The main function is entirely implicit, just like in Python. But because this example is quite boring, let's take a look at something more involved. So here comes a better Hello World example. And I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to read this before I talk about it and explain each line. Okay, so hopefully most of you realize what this is. It's a HTTP server, essentially being started on port 8080. And if I go from the top to the bottom, first thing you see is an import statement, very similar to Python. There's a lot of similarities between NIM and Python. The module system is also very similar. The main difference is that when you're importing a module in NIM, all of the symbols that are exported in that module are put into the modules that imports that module's namespace. So as you can see on the next line, where I'm defining a server variable, I don't have to write async HTTP server dot new async HTTP server. I can just write new async HTTP server. And this works in NIM because it's statically typed. To those of you that know Python, this might seem a bit weird, but trust me, it works very well. The var keyword means that we're defining a mutable variable. We can also define an immutable variable using the let keyword, sort of similar to JavaScript. Further down, we have a function definition. We're defining a function called onRequest. And that function takes a single argument called REQ of type request. And then we see what is called a pragma. And in this case, we have an async pragma, which turns our function into an asynchronous function. And this allows us to use things like await inside the body of our function. So then we have an if statement, again, similar to Python. We check the request method. If the request method is a get from HTTP, then we respond with 200 status code and hello world. Otherwise, we just return error code 500 and the body not supported. And then the last line just launches the HTTP server. So I'm going to try and compile and run this now. Let's see how well that goes. So let me just copy it. I'm going to try, and I do have two screens here, but so if I zoom in, and then I'll just use vim, http server.nim, paste that in. That is not what I wanted. Okay, let's just remove that. Okay, that looks good. Save that. And to compile nim software, you just invoke the nim compiler, and you do that by just typing in nim space C for compile, and then we can also write -r, which stands for run, after the compilation, and then the file name HTTP server. Press enter. You can see lots of messages. It just shows you the modules that it's processing at the time and which ones it's compiling. So there's quite a few modules, but as you can see, it only took it like 3 seconds, which is hopefully pretty fast. And it's running. So now if I jump back to my presentation and exit the full screen, and if I go to localhost port 8080, there it is. So that's this example running on my little Mac here. So let's move on. If I can find my cursor. Okay. So as you saw, nim is compiled, but not like most languages. As the image there shows, nim actually compiles to C first, and then that C code is passed to another compiler and then compiled into a binary. And this allows very easy interfacing with C libraries. And it also allows the nim compiler to very easily compile to C++ and Objective-C, because it's pretty much the same language with some additional features, and nim supports all of those features. So you can very easily interface with C++ libraries as well and Objective-C, which allows you to run nim applications on iOS devices. And we also have JavaScript compilation, which allows you to run nim applications on the web. And the bullet points there show some other characteristics of compiling to C. So for example, portability associated with it, and the ability to produce very efficient and, most importantly, dependency-free binaries. That's something that was very important to me coming from actually Python. I didn't want to depend on the Python interpreter. I just wanted to ship my binaries standalone, give them to someone, family or friends, and have them praise me for my awesomeness. And yeah, JavaScript compilation for the web platform. So another thing to mention is that by compiling to C, you can actually get to WebAssembly through that route. You can use mscriptn and get WebAssembly. So that's another thing. But the takeaway that I want you to take from this slide is that nim is 100% compatible with all C++ libraries, and no other language can actually say that. So there's a pretty good example of why compilation to C++ is important. And so let me introduce you to my hero. So you might know him. He's a very famous entrepreneur. Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX. And he's one of the most inspirational figures out there, in my opinion. So, SpaceX's rockets run on C++. I checked. And NIM can compile to C++, so you can hopefully see where I'm going with this. Elon Musk and NIM should fall in love. So, Elon might be able to start using NIM on his rockets, potentially, without rewriting any of the C++. He could use NIM's amazing features to make his software better, but continue using his C++ code base, because you can interface so easily. Of course, I am half joking here, but there are many companies out there that are using C++, and they could definitely benefit from this. And the code sample at the bottom you see there also shows some extra NIM features, namely named arguments and comments, which are Python-like again. But now let me show you something that was actually written in NIM. So this is a snake game I've created over a couple of weekends, so excuse the poor graphics. I'm not great at those. But it is meant to emulate the snake game on an ordinary Nokia phone. So hopefully it sort of resembles it. It's written 100% in NIM. There's a server component which uses the C backend, runs on a DigitalOcean VPS. And there's also a client component which uses the JavaScript backend of NIM, which runs in the browser. So if I can use my cursor again, you will see that this is actually playable in my slides. So I can type in my name, press play, and it works. And so this is a little bit of a twist on Snake. You can see on the right there's a leaderboard, a live leaderboard. So you can actually join this game right now if you go to that URL on your phone or on your laptop. And let me tell you, it was not easy to get this working on a phone, especially on Apple devices. So yeah, anyone joining? Okay, there's someone. Awesome. 2 people. 3 people. So hopefully this whole thing doesn't crash. But yeah, you can see I'm eating these pellets and my score increases, and there's a little bit of a latency there on the scoreboard because it's synced between all devices. So that's that. And that's just something that I've hacked up over 2 weekends. So what can professional people do? And it's not playing. Okay. There we go. So this is a game called Real Valley. It's it focuses on the Facebook platform, if you will, by default, which is why you see my Facebook profile picture there. I wasn't brave enough to actually launch this live, so I just created a video. But it hopefully shows off what NIM is capable of if you have a team of very dedicated and talented artists and developers. And yeah, this is written 99% in NIM. There is like 1% of Java code, and oh yeah, I forgot to mention, it also targets Android and iOS devices. So that's the advantage that NIM brings into this. They just have one code base with some slight platform-specific code, and they target all devices very easily. So they're released currently on Android and on Facebook. You can go on that URL and play it as well. And yeah, it's actually a pretty good game. So check it out if you want. So let's talk a bit about the status of NIM. So we have a NIM compiler that's written 100% in NIM. It was the latest release was only released just 16 days ago, version 0.18.0. And version 1 is a milestone that many programming languages try to chase. And it's an important milestone because it means that developers can finally feel confident that the language will have no more breaking changes after that fact. So that's what we're currently working on, and it is coming soon. And yeah, we also have a package manager, also written 100% in Nim, of course, because not invented here syndrome is prevalent in Nim land. And it's slightly different than most package managers. It's decentralized. It uses Git or Mercurial repositories for storing your packages. So you can literally type nimble space install space a URL to a GitHub repository, and as long as that GitHub repository has some nimble metadata, then it'll get installed. And we also have an easy Nim installer inspired by Rustup called Choose Nim. Some of you may have gotten a little flyer, a little Nim flyer in your bags, and it has a little one-liner you can just put into a Linux machine or a Mac OS machine, and it'll install Nim for you very quickly. So that's what you see on the video down there. Actually, you don't, because it's not playing either. Let me just play it. Yeah, so it's that easy. So now let's move on to talking about contributing to Nim. Nim is an open source project. It is developed completely on GitHub. And you may be wondering why would you want to contribute to such a project? Well, let me talk a bit about a few points. So first thing is you will have a chance to shape the design of a very major programming language. You can join our IRC channel where most development talk design takes place, and you can discuss your issues or which features you want implemented next, or tell us that we're completely wrong and we should stop developing Nim, things like that. And the creator of Nim is always in the IRC channel. That's one of the unique things about Nim. I haven't seen a single programming language that has that. I know that Rust has a few core developers in the IRC channel, but the creator of Rust, I don't think he actually works on Rust anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of programming language developers that have started developing Swift. And I really love that about Nim when I started using it. Because I asked a question and all of a sudden the creator of the language answered me. Like, you don't really see that every day, right? Another thing is you get to learn from very passionate and talented developers. I learned a lot of things from the creator of Nim especially, and also many of the other people that have contributed to Nim over the years. I also met many awesome people. One of those people is in the audience. Okay, so next thing, perfect community size. The community size, I feel, is just right. It's not too big, it's not too small. It's somewhere in the middle. So if you ask a question in IRC, your message won't just be lost in 5 seconds. Somebody will actually answer it. You have an excuse to reinvent the wheel. That's something that helped me really a lot because I love reinventing the wheel. I will admit that right now. Mostly because I love to see how things work. And with Nim, you do have an excuse to do that. You have an excuse to write a lot of libraries that might not be available yet. So you may, for example, want to write, I don't know, an HTTP library, an FTP library, or some other more exotic protocol that you've been using in your work, and you want to know how it works, so you could just write a nim package for that. And of course, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So how would you contribute to nim? Well, steps are easy. You start by installing it, you use it, and then you improve it, right? And you improve it by submitting bug reports. It's all done on GitHub. You just Google nim, GitHub, and you'll see where to submit bug reports. Raise awareness. So tell your friends about nim. I would really appreciate that. And create nim packages. So that's, again, tying to the reinventing the wheel. It's a lot of fun. And if you need any help or stuck with some issue, don't be afraid to come and ask, even if you haven't. Like, we even have people who don't program at all come in and ask us how to do things, and we're happy to help. Just join us on IRC or Gitter or our forum. You'll see some links later. And of course, the best way to learn nim is this beautiful book that some of you have already received. And thank you to Johnny for buying 4 copies and distributing them around. If you're interested in purchasing a copy, you can do that on that URL down there. And I think I'm over time now, but here's some other goodies that I did not have a chance to speak about. In particular, metaprogramming. That's sort of NIM's special feature, and no other language that I know, maybe apart from Lisp, has as many metaprogramming features as NIM does. And the async await syntax that you've seen on, I think, the second slide is actually implemented using metaprogramming, because the async pragma is just a macro that transforms a function. It looks for the await keywords, and it transforms them into a yield and into a coroutine. Yeah, so that's some of the other features. Do take a look at it and read up on it. I won't go through them all now. And here are some links. Obviously, the NIM programming language website, forum, NIM subreddit, NIM on IRC. The Gitter link is a much more accessible way to IRC, and they are actually linked. So when you talk on IRC, people on Gitter will also see the message and vice versa. So you can join either. And yeah, please follow us on nim_lang and Dom96. Yeah, thank you for listening.